guys, how's it going? And welcome to the Rebel Pastor YouTube channel. This is Pastor Sky over here, and guess where I am? Kind of see in the background. I am over here in Las Vegas. Yes, the Rebel Pastor is truly the Rebel Pastor. And I am the righteous, I guess I can't call myself righteous, but the Rebel Pastor is in Sin City. The good thing is, it's only like 9:30 in the morning, so I'm feeling that during this time there is less sin going on. So how are you guys doing? I hope you guys had an amazing and awesome week. Of course, if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe, hit that notification bell, and hit that like button. And if you want to do a little bit more for this channel as we're going for the 10,000 subscriber goal, go ahead and share this video with people you think would benefit from this content also. Now, here I am all the way inside, I'm in Sin City, and I'm actually here visiting a church, okay? So, well, church friends. There's not actually an actual church itself I'm visiting, but there's a pastor that I know and his family, and just had a good time chatting, discussing about God, history, the Bible. And one of the topics that did come up I want to talk to you about today is about history. Okay, so when we think about the Messiah, when we think about Jesus, a lot of times we're always thinking only about, how is Jesus the Messiah according to the Bible? And I'm not going to say that's a bad thing at all. What I'm telling you guys is, if you want to strengthen your belief, your conviction, it's not something where it's just the Bible only, but another thing that you guys should think about is historically, right? Looking at history itself, you're able to realize more deeply about God also, right? So let me give you a couple things that is very, very important. So biblically speaking, of course, we know there are many awesome prophecies about Jesus in the Bible, right? For instance, you have Micah chapter 5 verse 2, where it talks about Jesus coming from the town of Bethlehem, right? You have Isaiah chapter 11 verse 1 and 2. You can go all the way down to verse 5, where it talks about Jesus being born from the lineage of King David, right? From the stump of Jesse. There's so many different prophecies that have come true. And when you realize this, you're like, oh my goodness, according to the Bible, we know that Jesus is the Messiah. Now, what about historically? Now, history is such a big topic, isn't it? And when you look at history, you think to yourself, wow, like how is history going to, prove even more God's history, what God is actually doing in the world today? Well, let me show you something that it's really, really interesting, all right? So when you look at the Old Testament, the last prophet is Malachi, okay? So Malachi is the last prophet in the Old Testament, and then the next book is Matthew, and it starts talking about Jesus the Messiah. Now, here's the thing. That time, when you flip the page from the last page of Malachi over to Matthew chapter 1, it's only one page you flip, but it's actually 400 years. So the big question that we have to ask ourselves is, historically, what was God doing to prepare for the Messiah, right? Isn't that an interesting question? In those 400 years, was God just doing nothing, or was he preparing for Jesus's arrival? Now, during that 400 years, usually some people call it the intertestamental period, that 400 years between Malachi and Jesus. Now, what was happening in between that time historically? Now, one of the biggest things that we know, which in history is huge too, it was Alexander the Great. So Alexander the Great, we know, conquered the known world in 13 years. So that's huge. We've read it in the history books. We understand this also. But why is Alexander the Great important to Jesus? Well, the one thing that Alexander the Great did that really propelled the history of God over the next 2,000 years was his love for Greece, Greek language, Greek culture, all these things, right? Basically, he Hellenized the known world. So because he wanted everyone in every country that he conquered to know the Greek language and to know the Greek culture. He was in love with Greek culture and language, right? So why is that important? Well, because of that, when Greece took over, I'm going to start moving the other way. When Greece took over, right? When Greece took over this, when their empire started, everyone, including Israel, began to speak Greek, right? So why is that important? Well, it's important because of this. Now, a lot of people in Israel may think this is a bad thing, but this is also a good thing at the same time. So what actually happened was when the Greek culture and language came into Israel, right? And there was a lot of Jews that actually spread out into different parts of the Greek Empire. What happened was, in order to do business, right, in order to kind of live the life outside of Israel, you had to know the Greek language and the Greek culture. So what eventually happened was many Jews didn't know how to speak their native language like Hebrew or Aramaic, and all they could speak was Greek. So because of this, what happened? Eventually, in order to bring the Jewish religion back into the Jews, right, what did they need? They needed to create a Greek Bible. Why? Because a lot of the Jews couldn't speak Aramaic or Hebrew anymore. So what actually happens here is, this is where the creation of the Septuagint came in, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament. Now, why is this important? It's like, oh my gosh, the Jews lost their culture and their language, so how is that a good thing? Well, this is super important. So after the Greeks, right, of course, there's a little stint with Israel taking over for about 3 years, but the Romans eventually came in. They kept the Greek language, right? And what happened was, when the Romans came in, they have this dominant empire, and you're talking like 10 different countries, and it's huge, right? Everyone is speaking the same language. Why is that important? It's important because on that foundation, Jesus came. Why is that important? Because if everyone was speaking their own language, if everyone was only speaking, like the Greeks and the Persians, the Medes, Babylonians, like if all these different countries were all speaking different languages, what would be the biggest problem? The biggest problem would be, even if Jesus came, the gospel could not be preached to the entire world because someone would need to know all these different languages. But because everyone was speaking the same language, what happens? The gospel can spread readily around the Roman Empire, and eventually 400 years after Jesus dies and resurrects, Christianity becomes the state religion of the Roman Empire. How was that possible? It was already being prepared and made by God historically in that one page from Malachi to Matthew, so that the gospel could spread in a better way. The Romans came, they built the roads, and what did that do for Apostle Paul? It allowed him to travel from town to town, city to city, country to country, to spread the gospel in a faster way too. When you understand how much God is preparing, right? Preparing just for the Messiah to come, that is something that we have to realize in our life too. In your life, a lot of times you think to yourself, what is God doing for me? Right? What is he actually doing for me? Like, I feel that God, is not really taking a part of my life. But it's the same thing. When you look at the Old Testament to the New Testament, it's that one page you flip over and you think nothing happened in between. But what God is doing, he is preparing the way for the Messiah to come. And in the same way too, when you look at your lives, what's happening? The same thing's going to happen. It may feel like there's absolutely nothing happening and God is doing nothing in your life, but during that time, in secret, he is making and preparing the roads, the language, the culture for you to be blessed and for you to receive Jesus even more deeply in your life also. So, this is something that I really want to talk to you because I had this great conversation with my pastor friend over here in Las Vegas. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. It's a little bit short, but I hope is it short? Yeah, it's a little bit short. It's like 10 minutes, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoy my time here in with my, I guess my vlog here in Las Vegas. All right, everyone have an amazing and awesome day and week, And we'll see you guys again next week on the Rebel Pastor YouTube channel. This is Pastor Sky signing out of Las Vegas. Everyone, take care. Bye-bye.
Call me a rebel, never settle. I raise the level. It's time to go, sky's the limit. It's me against the world. Rebel pastor, ooh.